He had been my best friend since school. We had been through everything together, our first parties, failing exams, breakups. But one evening, a trivial thing turned our friendship into something more. I didn't know then that this discovery would be the beginning of the biggest battle of my life. Against betrayal, condemnation, and even my own fear, I never planned to fall for my best friend. The truth hit me on an ordinary Thursday night, with the kind of force that knocks the air out of you. 1 second, Chris was laughing about his broken electric trimmer, waving it like a dead bird in my doorway. The next, I was realizing I'd spent years pretending the way I looked at him was nothing more than brotherly loyalty. "Man, you gotta help me out," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an answer. He always did that. My apartment was practically his second home. "I can't show up at the gym looking like a caveman." I smirked, hiding the thud in my chest. "You kill those things faster than anyone I know. What are you doing, shaving steel pipes?" He grinned, tossing the trimmer onto my desk like it was worthless. "Just regular cleanup. Chest, arms. You know how it is." I didn't. Not really. But I played along. "You've come to me in your hour of need," I teased. "Maybe I should name my price." He rolled his eyes, the grin still plastered on his face. "Don't act like it's a Ferrari. It's just a trimmer. Maybe I'll shave you myself." I shot back, words half joking, half testing a boundary I wasn't supposed to touch. He laughed, loud and genuine. But then his eyes lingered on mine for a moment too long. Something flickered there, a hesitation he quickly buried under another smirk. "Yeah, right. Like I'd let you do that." I should have stopped there. Instead, I pushed. "Why not? 2 hands are better than 1. You'd thank me later when you don't end up with bald patches." The silence that followed was sharper than I expected. Then, almost casually, Chris leaned against the doorway. "You know what? Fine. Let's see what happens." I laughed to cover the sudden tightness in my chest. But he didn't flinch. He pulled off his hoodie and walked toward the bathroom. Just like that, the floor under me shifted. It should have been nothing, just 2 guys messing around. But standing in that small space with him, the hum of the trimmer in my hand, I realized this wasn't a joke anymore. "You sure about this?" I asked, flicking the switch, pretending I wasn't stalling. He leaned back against the sink, arms folded. "What? You don't trust your skills?" "It's not my skills I'm worried about," I muttered before I could stop myself. He caught the slip, raising an eyebrow but didn't push. Instead, he nodded toward me. "Go on, barber. Do your thing." I stepped closer, too aware of the warmth radiating off him, the smell of soap still clinging to his skin. I pressed the buzzing trimmer to his chest and dragged it downward in a steady line. The vibration rattled through my fingers, and when his breath caught, just for half a second, I felt it in my own lungs. "Focus," I told myself. "It's just hair." But my hand lingered longer than it should have, my knuckles brushing his ribs. He didn't move away. He just watched me through the mirror, his grin gone, his expression unreadable. The room grew quiet, the hum of the blades the only sound. My pulse thundered in my ears. "If anyone walked in right now," I said, desperate to break the tension, "they'd get the wrong idea." Chris chuckled, but softer than before. "Yeah, but no one's here." The words hit me harder than they should have. "No one's here. Just us." I kept moving the trimmer, slower now, tracing lines across his stomach. Every touch felt deliberate, every brush of skin magnified. I couldn't tell if I was imagining the way his body stiffened each time, or the way his breathing deepened. "You okay?" he asked suddenly, his voice quieter. "Yeah," I answered too quickly. "You're not acting like yourself," he said. His eyes met mine in the mirror again, steady, searching. I wanted to laugh it off, but the sound caught in my throat. He was right. I wasn't myself. I was someone who couldn't stop noticing the curve of his shoulders, the warmth under my fingertips, the silence between us that felt less like comfort and more like a dare. The trimmer buzzed, my hand trembling slightly. "Almost done," I muttered. "Take your time," he replied. It shouldn't have meant anything, but it did. The air grew heavier, charged. I brushed too close to his waistband, froze, and waited for him to shove me away. Instead, he inhaled sharply and stayed still. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the trimmer. I pulled back, muttering an apology, but Chris didn't flinch. He didn't laugh it off. He just stood there, watching me with an expression that stripped away every wall of humor he usually hid behind. Then, with a nervous smile, he asked the question that would change everything. "Are you doing this on purpose?" The words stopped me cold. I stared at him, caught between denial and truth, between years of friendship and something I couldn't bury anymore. And for the first time, I didn't know which answer would ruin me more. Chris's question hung in the air like a blade. "Are you doing this on purpose?" I should have laughed, thrown out another joke to bury it. That was how we'd always worked, never letting silence stay long enough to turn serious. But my throat refused to cooperate. I don't know," I muttered, voice cracked. Chris tilted his head slightly, still watching me in the mirror. His smile was nervous, not mocking. "You sure about that?" My chest tightened. Every excuse I wanted to spit out, I slipped, "It's nothing, stop imagining things," collapsed before they reached my mouth. Instead, I set the trimmer down, the sudden silence louder than before. "I didn't mean to cross a line," I said quickly. "If I did, I'm sorry. I swear, I wasn't trying to." "Don't," Chris cut me off. His tone was quiet, but sharp enough to freeze me in place. He turned, leaning back against the sink, arms braced at his sides. His voice dropped lower. "Don't be sorry." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, for the smirk that told me he was about to call me an idiot. But it never came. "What does that mean?" I asked. Chris swallowed hard, running a hand over his jaw like he was buying time. "It means I noticed, and it didn't feel wrong." The floor shifted under me again. "You don't hate it?" He shook his head, a faint, shaky laugh slipping out. "I'm not saying I get it. I'm not saying I know what I'm doing. But when you touched me, when you looked at me like that, it felt," he trailed off, forcing the words out. "It felt like something I didn't want to stop." My pulse slammed against my ribs. For years, I'd convinced myself I was the only one carrying this. Now, hearing him admit even a fraction of it, it was like fire under my skin. But reality crashed in just as fast. "Chris, you're with Emily." The name dropped between us like a stone. His jaw tightened. "I know," he muttered. "I know." "Then what the hell are we doing?" My voice cracked with frustration I hadn't meant to show. "This, whatever this is, it isn't fair. Not to her. Not to us." He pushed off the counter, pacing a short line in the cramped space. "You think I don't know that? You think I haven't been tearing myself up about it since you put that trimmer on me?" I flinched. So it's my fault now?" "That's not what I'm saying." His voice shot up, raw. Then he stopped, dragging a hand through his hair, forcing himself to calm down. "I'm saying I didn't expect it. I didn't expect you. And now I can't pretend I didn't feel it." My heart twisted, torn between relief and guilt. "So what, Chris? You break up with her? You throw away years just because of a moment?" He looked at me, eyes wide, conflicted. "I don't know. But I can't sit here and lie. Not to you, not to myself." The words should have made me happy. Instead, they made me sick. Because even if he meant them, even if he wanted me, there was still Emily, and the life he'd built with her. "Then you need to figure it out," I said, voice low. "Because I can't be your secret. Not now. Not ever." His face tightened. "You think I'd hide you? Wouldn't you?" I shot back. "What happens when she finds out? When everyone finds out? You think they'll just shrug it off?" Silence. He didn't answer. And in that silence, I already knew. I stepped back, grabbing the trimmer, switching it off completely. The hum died, but the tension didn't. "I can't do this," I whispered. Chris reached for me, hesitated, then let his hand drop. His voice cracked. "Derek." But I was already walking out of the bathroom, heart pounding, fear clawing at me. Because I knew this wasn't just about friendship anymore. We'd crossed into something fragile, something dangerous, and neither of us was ready for what came next. That night, I lay awake replaying everything. His voice, his eyes, the way he said don't be sorry. And worse, the way my chest had lit up with hope, even as my head screamed disaster. For the first time since we'd met, I wasn't sure Chris was the friend I'd always known, and I wasn't sure I wanted him to be. Emily found out faster than either of us expected. It wasn't a dramatic slip or a confession. It was the silence. Chris stopped answering her calls one night when he was at my place, and she showed up the next day with questions I couldn't answer. I'll never forget her face when she walked in and saw the distance between us. The way I looked away, the way Chris froze. She didn't need details. She just knew. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded. Chris opened his mouth, but nothing came out. My pulse hammered. The silence was enough. "You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. "You? With him?" Her words cut deeper than I expected. Not because they were cruel, but because they carried disbelief, like the idea of me being wanted by him was absurd. Chris stepped toward her, desperate. "Emily, wait." "No," she shoved past him, eyes burning into mine. "Did you know this whole time? Did you know I was with him and still?" "I didn't plan this," I stammered. "It just—" She laughed bitterly, sharp and broken. "You didn't plan it? That makes it better." She turned to Chris, voice rising. "And you lied to me. For how long?" Chris tried to answer, but she was already gone, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. The silence that followed was suffocating. "She's going to tell everyone," I said flatly. Chris ran his hands through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. "I'll talk to her. I'll fix it." "You can't fix this," I snapped. "Not with her. Not with anyone once it's out." And I was right. By the weekend, it was everywhere. Our friends, classmates, even my parents. Emily hadn't just told people. She'd posted. Names, hints, everything but photos. It spread like wildfire. Screenshots bouncing from phone to phone until I couldn't walk into a lecture hall without whispers scraping across my back. My phone filled with messages I didn't want to read. "Is it true? You and Chris?" Some were curious, some mocking, some outright hostile. When my mom called, her voice was cold. "Tell me this isn't real." I froze. "Mom, this is a phase. You're confused. You're not throwing your life away for some boy you've known since high school." Anger flared in my chest, sharper than the shame. "He's not just some boy, and I'm not confused." Her voice cracked, but not with sympathy, with disappointment. "Do you have any idea what this will do to our family? To you?" I hung up before she could finish. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at the dark ceiling, listening to the notifications pile up. The weight of everyone's judgment pressed down until I could hardly breathe. When Chris finally called, I almost didn't answer. "Derek," he said, voice rough. "I'm so sorry. I tried talking to Emily. She won't listen. She wants to burn me to the ground." "She already did," I whispered. "Not just you. Me too." Silence stretched between us. For once, he had no jokes, no easy answers. Finally, he said, "I'll fix this. I'll stand up for you." I wanted to believe him, but when I walked into the gym the next day and saw him sitting with his teammates, laughing like nothing had happened, my chest hollowed out. He didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me. The betrayal stung worse than the whispers. That night, I confronted him outside the locker room. "You promised." He looked away. "It's not that simple." "It is," I snapped. "You either stand with me or you don't. And right now, you don't." His silence was my answer. I left him there, surrounded by the same people he was too afraid to lose, and for the first time, I realized I was standing alone. The days after Chris pulled away were the hardest I'd ever lived through. Everywhere I went, the whispers followed. Classrooms, the gym, even the corner store. Eyes stuck to me like glue. Some people laughed. Others stared like I was contagious. But the worst part wasn't them. It was him. Chris acted like nothing happened. When I passed him in the hall, he nodded at his friends, cracked jokes, pretended I didn't exist. He had chosen survival, and I had been left behind as collateral. First, I tried to wait it out. Maybe he just needed time. Maybe he'd come around. But every day he stayed silent. Something inside me broke a little more. My phone lit up constantly. Messages from old friends cutting me off. Family members begging me to get back on track. Strangers tossing slurs. I stopped opening them. The words bled through anyway. One night, after another fight with my mom on the phone, I threw the device across the room and sat in the dark. I wanted it all to stop. The noise, the shame, the ache of losing Chris when I needed him most. But as the silence settled, another thought crept in. If I stayed quiet, they won. If I hid, I gave every whisper and every insult the power they wanted. That was the night I decided I wouldn't hide anymore. The opportunity came faster than I expected. My campus hosted an annual student conference on equality. A friend from a political science class asked me to join the panel after one of the original speakers dropped out. At first, I almost refused. I didn't want to stand in front of people who already judged me. But something in me shifted. If I kept running, I'd never stop. So I said yes. The day of the event, my hands shook so badly I nearly walked out before stepping on stage. But then I remembered Chris's silence, Emily's betrayal, my mom's voice telling me I was ruining everything, and I forced myself forward. When the moderator asked why I agreed to speak, I didn't sugarcoat it. Because I'm tired of people talking about me without hearing from me, I said into the microphone. I didn't choose to be dragged into a rumor mill, but I can choose not to be ashamed. The room went quiet. For the first time in weeks, no one whispered. They just listened. I know what people are saying, that I ruined friendships, that I betrayed trust, that I'm confused. But I'm not confused. I know who I am. And if that makes some of you uncomfortable, that's your problem, not mine. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. You can judge me, you can cut me off, but I won't apologize for being real. Not anymore. When I finished, I expected laughter, boos, something sharp to slice me down. Instead, there was a moment of silence, then applause. Not everyone clapped, but enough did that I felt the ground under me steady again. Later, when I walked off stage, a stranger from the audience stopped me. Thanks, he said simply. I needed to hear that. It was the first time since everything exploded that I felt like I wasn't drowning. That night, I didn't hear from Chris. I didn't expect to, but I didn't need his voice to know I'd taken something back for myself. For weeks, I'd let fear and betrayal decide who I was. But standing there, telling the truth out loud, I realized no one else got to decide that anymore. And even if I had to walk forward alone, I'd walk. Chris didn't reach out until weeks after the conference. By then, the storm had shifted. People still whispered, but the volume was lower. Some avoided me, others nodded like nothing had happened. A few even thanked me quietly for speaking up. Chris wasn't one of them. Not until he showed up outside my apartment one evening, looking like he'd been carrying the weight of the world. Derek, he said, voice unsteady. Can we talk? I hesitated, every part of me wanting to slam the door. But something in his eyes, regret, fear, maybe both, kept me rooted. I stepped aside. He paced once across the room, restless. I messed up, bad. I should have defended you. I should have been there when everything blew up. Instead, I hid. I was scared. I folded my arms. You think I wasn't scared? He flinched. I know. That's why I'm here. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know. I never stopped caring. I just didn't know how to be both things at once. The guy everyone expected me to be, and the guy who... His voice cracked. Who wanted you? The words landed heavy, but not the way they once would have. Chris, I said quietly, you let me drown while you kept your head above water, and maybe you hated yourself for it, maybe you didn't know what to do, but you still chose silence. Over me. He dropped his gaze. I thought I'd lose everything. You did, I replied. You lost me. He swallowed, fighting to keep his composure. I want to make it right. I shook my head. You can't. Not like before. I can't go back to being your secret or your safety net. I've already fought too hard to stand on my own. Silence stretched between us. For once, Chris didn't argue. He just nodded slowly, as if finally understanding that some choices couldn't be undone. Before he left, he said, "I'll regret this for the rest of my life." I believed him, but regret wasn't enough. The weeks that followed were quieter. Emily cut ties with him completely. His friends, the ones who'd laughed along when rumors spread, drifted away. People saw him differently now, not as the golden boy with all the jokes, but as someone who had betrayed two people in one strike. And me? I kept walking forward. I didn't have all the answers. Some days the weight of it still pressed down hard. But there was also relief and even pride. I'd spoken when everyone wanted me silent. I hadn't let shame choke me into hiding. One night, sitting on the steps outside campus, a freshman I'd never met stopped and said, "Hey, I just wanted to say, thanks for not pretending. Makes it easier for the rest of us." That was when I realized the fight had never been just about me and Chris. It was about every person who'd ever been shoved into silence. Every kid who thought they were alone. I wasn't alone anymore. Chris faded into the background, carrying the consequences of choices he couldn't undo. And I carried something else, something stronger. The knowledge that even in betrayal, even in loss, I hadn't broken. I'd learned that love, when it comes wrapped in lies and fear, can't survive. But dignity can. Truth can. And sometimes that's enough.